Right, welcome everyone to this year's AGM. It's a bit different to previous ones. It's the first online one.
I was just going to talk very briefly because the ARGs are going to be speaking and I don't really want to steal their thunder. There's three main projects that we are involved with as a national organisation. The first of these is a pond in every prison, which the objective is to create or restore wildlife pond in all 119 prisons in England and Wales. Ministry of Justice, it's their project, but they've invited us to be a partner in that and help ensure that it happens. And then on the back of that, we are developing ecological outreach materials to train staff and offenders. And this is really a continuation of the fantastic work that Dave Willis has already been doing. And we're going to expand that to more prisons and to youth offender institutions, which will be challenging, I should imagine, but also very rewarding. And the other thing we're doing is developing a pond pack for use across the Ministry of Justice estate. And part of that is to be offender-led. So I've got the prisoners at HMP Leyhill, which is an open prison, are even as we speak and sitting in their cells writing our pond pack for us. That'll be quite good. And then just progress to date. So 68 of the 119 have got at least one pond, 32 we are actively creating ponds, and 19 are early stages, so we've got visits planned to go and see what can be done. So our second national sort of impetus is on adder conservation. Now the problem here is that because of COVID-19 we had to basically postpone all the land manager days and everything else we planned, but obviously the volunteers have continued to survey, I'm going to say, for reptiles within national guidelines, so that will be however many was allowed at that moment, and not travelling too far and staying close to home and sanitising and all the rest of it. So we've got records continuing to come in, and Trustee Nigel Hand has also been radio tracking. He's got various sites on Gloucestershire, which I'm not able to mention at this time, but that does include the Forest of Dean. And the data is being used to inform habitat management, which is what we all want data for, really. And we've also, as an experiment, which is more successful than this, run an online community event with an actual village, a whole village, and about 55 people turned up. And they were really interested, and they asked really interested questions and good questions. So I feel kind of positive that this sort of marrying science and research with public outreach works really well. So, click that. To do it. So we will plan more land manager adder days when the COVID restrictions are eased, but we're just not sure when that's going to be at the moment, along with the rest of the UK. And if you want to get involved, you could join our long-running survey, Make the Adder Count, and I've updated that for this year, so all the forms and everything are up to date, and you can submit your records by record pool. Now, our third major project is Dragons in the Hills. I've just basically put up a holding slide for that. But what I want to do is invite Josh, if Josh is there anywhere, to come forward and give us his presentation.
Hi everybody, anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Josh Twining. I'm the project officer for Dragons in the Hills. And as Chris mentioned, despite COVID restrictions, we've been trying to push forward with the project. So really, I just want to take you on a quick whirlwind tour using, showing you some of the multimedia methods we've been trying to use to engage communities with the project. So it's a 3-year project, Heritage Lottery funded, all about engaging local communities and conserving reptiles and amphibians. So I'm just going to jump straight in and look at some of the ways we've been trying to engage with our communities and get people excited about getting out and collecting that all important biodiversity data. So please let me know.
Josh here from the Dragons in the Hills project. I've just been out surveying this local pond, in which we found loads of tadpoles, which you can see below here.
The audio?
Also saw an adult common frog over on the other side earlier, both of which I'll be recording in record pool later on when I get home tonight. And just as I was leaving, I decided I'd check a few storm drains below the pond, because sometimes amphibians can get washed down into them during heavy rains. And I've got something quite special to share with you today. The Smooth Newt, and this is a lovely male. Now very little is known about the Smooth Newt in Northern Ireland. we know that we've destroyed 80 to 85% of their natural habitat, wetlands and bogs. Some fantastic work by the Irish Wildlife Trust a few years ago suggests that they might be able to adapt quite well to some urban and man-made habitats such as quarries and ponds. But really that's a key part of what this project is about, is training you, members of local communities, up as citizen scientists to help collect really valuable biodiversity data on the occurrence of this protected species, so we can start building an idea of how the species is doing. So I'm going to return this little male now to his pond. I'm going to say goodbye to him. But he's really quite lovely and spectacular to see on this beautiful day. Hi guys.
So on top of general online content, we've been putting out on social media platforms, specifically trying to encourage people to record their sightings and get excited about going outside. During the second lockdown we had here in Northern Ireland, we decided to expand out and just generally work with members of the local community to try and help people feel more connected with their societies at the times we were most isolated. So we worked with, we have really fantastic support from groups like the Traditional Arts Partnership in South Armagh, which I'm just going to share a small outtake. And so they produce music, locally produced music from local artists, and allowed us to share it and put it into videos. So here's a little sample of some of that. And then building on that, we were working with people we were already working with, so members of our community groups and citizen scientists teams. We actually found that within them we had local historians and authors. So we built up an online web series called Myths and Songs Around the Fireplace, where we invited them to come and give a presentation or talk on something they found interesting or a topic that was very special to them. So here's a small outtake from this.
I love history, but history has the wider story, and then it has the smaller story that's part of your own area that you live in. So the Celts as a story.
So that's a short outtake from Una Walsh's episode, all about the origins of Halloween in Ireland and how it connects to the Ring of Gullion in South Armagh, which has been our focal point for the year. And you can find the whole 4-part web series online on both on our social media pages and on the ARG YouTube channel. So we've been really lucky to have wide support from throughout the community to help us keep working and producing content to try and keep people engaged and really distracted and helping them feel more connected at these times. So one of the key things we've been trying to do is engage with schools. And so we've done this through a variety of methods, but we started off by taking advantage of the homeschooling that was going on at the beginning of lockdown and gave online talk series with over 8 schools. It was a 3-part series looking at various topics from biodiversity and nature, reptiles and amphibians, to conservation and how people can get involved. These have been really, really well received, and we're just gearing up to start working with schools in our new study area in the Mourns this year. So I'm really excited about that. Also, of course, working with local artists, so taking that creative angle and trying to make what we do more engaging to a larger audience, and not necessarily just people who are strictly amphibian and reptile mad, but getting more creative types in. So this involved us producing an identification guide, which you can see on the left. And at the minute we're working on a big resource pack to give out to schools and teachers in the area too, filled with activities and information. And this is just another little piece that I love to share, made by Mabel Harris, who's been helping us with a lot of things on the project. It's really So something I'm really quite proud of is obviously citizen science sampling and people power to gather that all important and really quite lacking biodiversity data for our 3 native species of reptile and amphibian here in Northern Ireland has been a key aim of the project. And despite the lockdowns and restrictions limiting our ability to meet in groups, we were able to hold a series of small socially distanced training days. And we've gone from having just 1 newt record and 5 common lizard records since 1970 in the Ring of Gullion to having over 150 records in this year alone. So here are just some quick maps I put together showing the records we've got and densities of independent detections. So I'm really delighted with this, considering everything that's been going on, and excited to build on this further into this coming year as we expand out to our other focal areas. And then finally, just to leave you off, this is just a taste of what we've been doing. Again, working with another local person who is a drone operator and some fantastic local musicians. We put together a short video showing just some of the beauty of the natural landscapes of the Ring of Gullion, and overlaid that with some nice music.
On the mountain, there's sun going down. Her ash and her alder are green mossy boughs, and all round the mountain the white thorn in flower. All around the mountain and all the way home. Slave Gullion, she wears a gold crown. The sun going westward, the summer gone down. Our willow and her hazel, our birch and our broom, and all round the mountain the heather in bloom. All around the mountain and all the way home. Slave Gullion, she wears a white crown. There's snow in her bosom of white eider down. Her holly and her ivy, her bricks and her boughs, and here and there round the mountain the gorse is in flower.
So that's just a small taste from me from what we've been working on this year for the Dragons in the Hills. So again, quick summary: with our team of about 30 volunteers, we managed to gather over 500 volunteer hours, over 150 records, and we've also been working intensely with community projects in small organised bubbles. So yeah, a successful start to the year despite what's going on, and not just work from me, but huge support from the whole ARG team, Rob at HSI, Ryan from ARG NI, lots of people supporting us who we wouldn't be able to be doing and pushing forward the way we have been without them. So a huge thank you to everybody who keeps us going, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Josh. That's lovely. It's really lovely. Hang on, I'll put my video back on. There we go. Yeah, fantastic. And it's so lovely to hear multiple approaches. And did anybody spot a lizard when the drone flew over Slave Gullion? Anyway, so next up we have Sheila Dyerson. Hopefully she's with us. And Sheila is representing Hampshire and Isle of Wight ARG, HIWARG, and also Dorset ARG, which is done. Over to you, Sheila.
Thank you. So I'm Secretary of HIWARG, the Hampshire group, and I became Chair of DARM, the Dorset group, just over a year ago. Darn was just an email group, and Slow Worms in Churchyard project started off as a way to encourage Darn members to take part in surveys. However, also in Dorset, the Dorset Wildlife Trust have been working with 150 churches for 22 years with the Living Churchyard project, but they'd never focused on amphibians and reptiles. So I produced a leaflet on slow worms, which was circulated to the 150 churches, but I only had 2 responses. I can only assume that they were already committed to so many different surveys that they didn't want any more. So as you can see from the map, Dorset has been a bit slow to get started, but there are still lots of churches and burial grounds that have not yet been contacted. So I then slipped into Hampshire, HIWARG territory, and this has been more successful, as you can see from the map. A big thank you to Pete West for emailing lots of churches for me. Some churches don't respond, but many do, and a landowner permission comes in every few weeks. But I can't get out at the moment to set any transects up. In total, I have 23 transects already set up. Most have not been surveyed yet due to COVID and the reptiles hibernating. 5 more need setting up, and I'm waiting landowner permission for another 6. So a slip transect, 10 corrugated roofing tiles, 50 centimetres squared, placed along an edge under a bush or bramble out of the way. Checked once a month by a HIWARG or DARM member or someone from the church or burial ground community. Reptile and amphibian sightings recorded and uploaded to the ARG web. So the ARG web produces a map of where the tins have been placed. Click on the number and it will give you a good reference. It will show where the reptiles have been recorded. Also, each land manager has their own portal, so they can log on to the ARG web and see where the tiles are and where the reptiles have been found, and a report can be easily generated for inclusion in church or parish magazines or for local councils. Thinking ahead to the time when we can participate in public engagement activities again, and using the idea of adders are amazing, I've been working on a slow worms are sensational pack. So slow worms in a compost heap, hand-eye coordination, and it's just fun to do. Drawing, scratching slow worms onto rainbow card, slithery slow worm pencils, stripes for female, spots for male, spots and stripes like noughts and crosses. Using one template, a pack of cards can be made using different colours and 2 patterns. These can be used for dominoes, snap and pairs. Acrostic poems using the word slow worms. These can be made into bookmarks. And air-dried clay slow worms and collective nouns. The only official one I could find was a lounge of slow worms. Other people can produce more exciting ones. I'm going to laminate these and put them around trees and buildings when we do fetes and shows. So I'm also working on crosswords, word searches, and a slow worms year. Well, that's it. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Very much. Okay, now next up we've got Suzie Collinson from Cumbria ARG. Suzie, are you there? Can you unmute yourself and share your screen?
Yeah, I'm here. So, hi everyone, I'm Suzie Collinson and I am chairperson of the Cumbria Amphibian and Reptile group. Can I just say a big thank you for the trustee nomination. Extremely honoured, and hopefully I'll be elected to be on the board. So I just wanted to update people on what the group has been doing in Cumbria. So over the last year, 2020, we embraced social media. We put together some tutorials on, they're available on YouTube, and these tutorials were on how to become a member, looking through ARG web, navigating through it, and how to submit records to Record Pool as well. And they've been very popular with our members. And we've kept our online presence, keeping Facebook, Twitter, Instagram up to date, and the website as well. And we've also shared information and talks and courses from other organisations like PropLife and ARG as well. We had the calendar competition, which actually is going to speak about in a little bit. Heading into 2021, we've continued with our sort of online work. We've got presentations, online presentations booked. We've got corporate training organised, and we've also got training for members in preparation for the burial ground and small site initiative that we're really excited about. It's also what we've been doing is uploading some educational information and activities onto our website. These are available for all ARGs to use. Have a look through. If there's anything you would like to use, please do. They're aimed at Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. So there's information, there's crafts, and there's activities as well. Just before we came on, Ashley sent me a message, and she's been busy today, and she's produced this amazing poster, Snake Rocks. So her and her household have been busy painting and made this great poster. So again, feel free, this will be on the website, feel free to download and use. So it's all online, but hopefully we'll get to the point where all of these education materials, etc., we can expand on and, you know, be more interactive with them in schools and local groups, etc. So last year, obviously, things changed last year. We had a lot of things booked. One of the things we had booked was working with the local wildlife centre to us, Lakeland Wildlife Oasis. We had a World Frog Day event organised with them, where CARG would go and give information, have information on our local and native amphibians and reptiles within their reptile area of the wildlife park. So activities, craft activities, etc. But obviously, due to circumstances, this was cancelled. This linked onto my next slide, which is some information in regards to this. So Matt is one of our committee members. He also is a senior keeper at the Lakeland Wildlife Oasis Park. And he also holds the position of herp specialist at the British and Irish zoos and aquariums, and is part of the NSWG. So Matt's aim within this position is to promote interaction between zoos and aquariums and their local ARGs. Really exciting prospect, and it's just the beginning of the project, but you'll be hearing and seeing more of Matt as this progresses in the near future. So I just want to mention that. I've also put Matt's email address on there as well, if anyone would like to get in touch with him and ask any questions. So heading a bit further afield than Cumbria is Gambia, a long way away, but again we had a expedition, a trip organised for last year, which obviously cancelled. We are still hoping as a group to go in late summer, August, September time. We're going with a company called Project Wild Gambia. They've got extensive experience in conservation, spanning 20 years, 2 decades conservation work in that country. I've been with them before. Amazing time, amazing experience. And what we're hoping to do over there is setting up and working with Green Turtle Project and my words out, African dwarf crocs. So 2 amazing projects to be involved in. Now, this is for ARG members, CARG members, but it's open to all. So fingers and toes crossed that it goes ahead. But you know, if it is, it will just be postponed if it doesn't initially go ahead this summer. So I've put information again about the website, so if you'd like to read up a bit more about it, there's email address, and we have a Facebook page dedicated to it where we put information about on. So that was just a fly through of what we've been doing and project. So we will head on to Ashley's slides, if she's there.
Yeah, thanks, Susie. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fab. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley. So at the end of last year, Susie approached me and she had the great idea of creating these calendars. So the initial reason was to raise money for CARG and to engage non-members and members, and also to raise awareness about amphibian and reptile conservation within Cumbria and community growth for CARG as well. So we did this by hosting a photo competition for the 2021 calendar, and we advertised it on Facebook and also the University of Cumbria, which is our local university. We initially had an incentive for people to enter the competition as well. So whoever won the overall photo competition would have their winning photo on the front of the calendar and would also win their own free calendar as well. So we used Ask Prints as a supplier and the printer for the calendars, who were fab. They have a really user-friendly editing software on their website, and they even check it over for you once it's done, and just double check that everything's fine, and it'll look great when it's printed essentially. So there's no upfront cost for that either. We just receive 40% or 45% of the sales, sorry. And to also make it non-biased, our committee generously offered to judge the competition. So thank you very much for that, guys. Next slide, please, Susie. Thank you. So the photos on the left there are all the winning photos, which are fab. We had some really great entries and it was a really tough decision for all of those photographs. And you can also see the winning photo there of the grass snake on the left, which is a really cool photo. So overall, 12 people sent in 39 photos in total, which I thought was quite a really good outcome for us. All of the photos were non-disturbance photography, and any of the ones that might have been shown any handling were used for IDing purposes as well. So we announced the results on Facebook with the overall winner as well. And we also had a post engagement of around 200 per post, which is quite good for us considering, you know, we only have about just over 300 people on our Facebook page. So I was really happy with the amount of engagement we had. And in total, we sold around 25 calendars, which is £113.40, which doesn't really sound a lot, but all of that will be going towards our survey materials and also education outreach within Cumbria as well. And these calendars are also still available to buy. So if you haven't already got yourself a 2021 calendar, you know where to go. You can find it on our Facebook page as well, and also on our website. Yeah, that's everything for me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ashley. Great work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's us wrapped up. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Susie. I'm going to turn your screen. Can you turn your screen off?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, really interesting. Okay, so next in our ARG speed dating, we're zooming to Nottinghamshire in the middle of the country and calling Kevin Clarke. Where's Kevin?
Right, I'm a volunteer for ARG, and we're just going to do a little talk on creating grass snake egg laying sites in Nottinghamshire. Angie helped me put the presentation together, plus I've had help from Ravon, Friends of New St Annesley Country Park, ARG UK, and obviously ARG, which I'm a member of. So let's get started. So, Friends of Newstead and Annesley Country Park asked us to have a look at their site, see if we can improve it for reptile species. So they'd already been doing some surveys there. So we had a walk around, had a look around, and they'd already placed some mats. We'd placed some more mats down and did some surveys, see what was there. As you can see on the map, we've got all the yellow places where grass snakes have been seen. On the site, there's also great crested newts, smooth newts, and quite a few common lizards as well. There's quite a good head of grass snakes, to be fair, all around the sites. So on the survey mats, this is the typical things we're finding. The one on the left, you can see 3 grass snakes there, one in the top left corner, and the other 2, one in the middle and one down below. And basically, most mats at some point of the year would produce grass snakes. So ARG UK collaborated with Ravon, which is the Netherlands group, to translate the excellent document on creating grass snake egg laying sites, egg laying heaps, to be fair. So we discussed it with Friends of Newstead and Annesley Country Park, whether we'd be okay to build some on site, whether they could get some of the materials, and they managed to do it. And so we arranged some volunteers, got mobilized, went into action. Now, one of the volunteers brought some pallets at the time. We weren't in the egg laying criteria to build, but we thought we'd try it and see if it would help ingress into the egg laying heaps from the bottom, and also to help air the egg laying heaps as well. So we cleared an area, put them down as a base on a few areas, and then we followed the Ravon guidelines and built the heaps basically, and engaged with about, I think it was 10 volunteers, I think it was there. Really good day actually. So this is us, of course, a few of the volunteers building the egg laying heaps with manure, straw, grass cuttings, leaves. The people on the group who run the site had cut a load of trees down and thinned out some thickets and that, so there was a lot of material we could use. Again, some of us sat on the heaps, on the manure. So this is a map afterwards. Again, the yellow dots showing where the grass snakes are. The blue dots are where we've built the heaps, egg laying heaps. And the red dots are where the excess manure is, because to be fair, the local guy brought a lot of manure. So we made some results and conclusions from it. We made the egg laying sites a little bit too early in the year, and that was down to resources really, because the times we had for the people, the stuff we had to build the site, and because of COVID and stuff like that. Mature grass snakes were seen in the vicinity of each egg laying site and around the manure heaps. And also juvenile grass snakes were seen approximately about 20 yards away from the egg laying site, because I'd seen them as well. But we never got a chance to go back and see if anything was on the site, and we never actually dug any egg laying heaps up to see if there was any remains of any eggs or anything. What we could do, I suppose, this year is get some more manure and add more to them around April time, depending on lockdown. But here's some acknowledgements of Friends of Newstead and Annesley Country Park volunteers, CARG volunteers, Angela, of course, and Ravon. So yeah, really good project. And lastly, we've got a little video from the site that Angie's going to play in a minute, which is, this is what she said: I made the video for a program called Willerton Watch. It's a low key and budget version of Spring Watch. The aim is to educate primary school children on what surprising nature lives in Nottinghamshire and where to find it. It's quite quirky video. It's all right, actually. Just turn volume up 1 second.
It's very quiet, Kevin.
I can't go any higher with volume.
Bye. Okay. Right. My sound back up. Okay, thank you, Kevin. It's interesting to see when we produce a leaflet, we never know if anyone's actually going to do it. So it's lovely to see grass snake heaps being produced, and it was a good video. Okay, next up we have Erik Paterson from ClydeARG. So back up to Scotland. Erik, are you there?
Oh, I'm supposed to be giving an update about the work we did in 2020-2021 up at ClydeARG. We secured some funding to get people trained up in frog and toad surveys, which was due to take place in April, but then disaster. A little pandemic happened to happen, so everything got cancelled. So instead of talking about what we got up to, which is nothing, I'm going to talk about a project that I've been running through CARG for the past 10 years or so, the East Kilbride Amphibian Census. So East Kilware. East Kilbride is a little town just near Glasgow. It's the blue dot on the left-hand side, equates to the square on the right-hand side. Each one of those little blue balloons is a pond. There are 97 in total. I haven't looked at all 97. I've only been able to survey 57 of them. And of the 57, the pink ones are no longer accessible, which is 19 in total. And 2 of them have been completely lost to development. The one at the south, the white dot at the south, and just a landowner filling in a pond, the one at the northeast of the scheme, which was one of the best sites in East Kilbride for amphibians, for butterflies, for odonata. It was frankly just a bit of a disaster when they filled that in, but not much we can do. Unfortunately, I rocked up 2 years ago and it was gone. So of our amphibians, our common frogs are the most abundant species. They breed in 54 of the 57 ponds. They also have the best data set because I can do that on my own outside. Oh, I'm getting echo. Anyway, is someone unmuted? No? Okay.
No, it's you echoing, Erik.
Oh, is it? Right, okay. Sorry, guys. Right, anyway, so of the 57 ponds that we have been surveying, 54 of them have frogs that spawn in annually. And of these, 6, i.e. little green and yellow balloons, are at risk of being lost to development. And 2, the little white ones, are completely gone already. I have the most reliable data set for frogs because I can do this on my own during the daytime. It's quite hard to find people who want to hang around in such a cultural hub as East Kilbride of an evening. But the population of frogs is broadly stable. It is declining in some places, partly because of development pressure, partly because of just late stage succession of some of the ponds as well. We also have common toads. Those are mostly restricted to kind of the outskirts of East Kilbride and larger ponds, as you would kind of expect. Only 21 of the ponds have toads in. I don't have a lot of reliable population data because, again, that involves going out with the torch at night and it's quite difficult to encourage people to come with me. They are at risk of development and succession in 3 sites, the green dots again. And again, totally lost at 2 ponds. One of the things, obviously, Trevor and everyone will know quite a lot about this so far, is curbside gully pots are just wiping out the population in some of the areas, and it's very difficult to actually do anything about that, strangely. I'm struggling to enthuse people about putting in wildlife curbs or ladders, etc. So it's a battle. It is a bit of a battle. We also have palmate newts, our most common newt. They are, again, mostly restricted to the outside of East Kilbride. The one little blue balloon on the inside was an introduction from one of the other populations. 16 ponds for these guys, and at risk at 2 and totally lost at 1. Again, that one in the northeast, which is a real shame. And lastly, smooth newts. For folks down south and in Ireland, I guess smooth newts won't be hugely amazing, but up here they're very uncommon. They're our least common amphibian, and in East Kilbride at least, and are at risk of being totally lost because 3 of the 5 sites are at risk of being lost to development, and 1 is already gone. So that leaves 2 that are suffering no pressures. So a bit of a problem there. Take-home messages. Those of us who are consultants, could we be doing more for widespread amphibians rather than just looking at great crested newts? I guess so, maybe not something for us to tackle this evening, but I think it's worthwhile opening that point up as a discussion, I guess. ARGs can be quite a powerful resource for data collection. This is 10 years of population size data and presence absence data for 60 ponds that we've been sitting on and sending to local record centre, etc. Anyway, for ARGs to influence local policy where we have data like this, I would posit yes, but I guess it's a bit challenging as a volunteer network to do that. But again, something potentially for us to discuss. And projects like this one have been really good for getting people out and about. So this has probably been the biggest sink of volunteer hours for ClydeARG in the past decade. So that's a really good thing and something to consider for other ARGs as well, these kind of projects. That's kind of all I really wanted to talk about. It's not the world's most interesting topic, but I enjoy it. And I'll just leave you with this little newspaper article from 2012 that people actually responded to. People contacted me to let me come to their homes based on this photograph. So that was surprising, and I applaud them for that. But yeah, thanks very much. And then I will stop here.
Thank you, Erik. Now moving to the Friends of Angus Herpetofauna and also the British Herpetological Society, who are one and the same, Trevor Rose. So welcome, Trevor. Trevor's going to tell us something very exciting about amphibian ladders.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, thanks for letting me in on this one. It was a good few years ago that we started the Amphibian Ladder project, and I just thought I'd give you a very quick run through of what we've done and where the project has gone and just how it's getting on just now. Back in 2014, I was inspired by Ray Kremer's presentation at the Herp Workers meeting, and they'd done a lot of work on gully pot entrapment. So this is the lab work that Raven had done in the Netherlands, and that was what inspired. Won't move on. Why would it move on? Oh, crikey, it's really, really slow. Sorry. That was what gave us the idea of coming up with these ladders. And as I say, by the middle of March, we'd created the ladders in its current form, got permission in a local trial spot to run a trial, and got them installed in time for the spring migration in Angus. So we did this in Dundee. And that went well, and you can find the results of that research on the BHS website. In November 2016, BHS kindly funded the beginnings of the project as it currently is, and we started to supply them on demand, basically. It helps, of course, that I'm also secretary of the BHS, which is why it's become the BHS ladder, but I think it's worth keeping in mind that this was always inspired by the work that Ray had done, and also founded in a local ARG, which is something I think. So without wanting to make a profit from the work, BHS funded this, and I've been basically supplying them ever since. And we've now supplied over 2,000 ladders right throughout the UK, and over 100 orders just. I've got some on progress just at the moment, and we've got lots of interest in lots of other places where we're trying to put them, including internationally, which is part of the reason I'm talking tonight, because you might be surprised how far this has gone. So this is a geographic map of where the ladders are being supplied. The smallest dots are out orders between 1 and 20. The largest dots, which there are 3 off in the south, are orders of over 150, and the ones in between, you know, they're anything from 50, 80 odd ladders or whatever. But you can see the distribution is actually quite wide and fairly even, actually. Fairly concentrated in the south. I think that's partly through GCN mitigation. We've also done a bit of work overseas, not least with Rob's group in Ireland, and also a few in the USA, a continuing customer in Poland, and also some work in South Korea. So this has taken us far and wide. Thought you might be interested in this. This is the percentage of groups that have purchased the ladders. So developers and construction industry are the biggest part, which I'll have a small comment to make in a moment. Local authorities are in the next smallest group. ARGs and volunteer groups such as ours, 17% of all the sales that we've done, and a few private companies and a few private individuals actually that have a passion for this and have got permission for a few ladders. But in a way, it's kind of disappointing that developers and construction sector isn't smaller, because they're the guys that are putting these ladders in for mitigation in new developments. And obviously what we're trying to push for is to use the ladders for retrofit and concentrate on gullyless systems on new developments. But you know, that's a bigger, tougher nut to crack. This is just a small sample of some of the customers that have bought the ladders, and apologies if you've bought some and your name's not on there. But that's just a representation. Obviously had to include a few gratuitous pictures of frogs and toads escaping on our ladders. These were actually taken in the first year. Sorry, the second year, 2015, these were done. And this is always my favourite one, with the amplexin toads making their way to the top. So even the females, which are bulky with spawn and carrying a male, can still climb the ladders and extricate themselves through the gully grating. And newts, we know they work for, but we've always very difficult to get a picture of a newt climbing a ladder. And this was sent to me from my colleagues in Poland that have had a few ladders, and this is a young crested newt making its way up a ladder, which is great to see. Very, very rare picture. And there are lots of other applications where we could use these ladders, and I've often thought about skylights. Cable trenches was a new one. One of the customers on the map was SSE, right up in the very north of Scotland, and they put a lot of ladders into their cable trenches. Farm reservoirs, stormwater gullies, and even some of the private individuals have put them in their domestic rainwater drains. I've got a current inquiry on the go for these wet wells. These are capturing great crested newts. The ecologist on site seems to think they're actually getting washed in from somewhere else, which may well be the case, but unfortunately these things get emptied every 4 or 5 days, so there's not much opportunity for them to get out. But we're investigating that one. This was another fairly recent one, one of these kind of sculptured ponds with completely lifeless, but newts are falling in and not getting out in time before they get overcome by the bromine, which is put in to keep the thing as sterile as it currently is. We actually sent them some Encomat, and they just pinned it to the side of the wall in the corner to help the newts out there. Basement skylights I mentioned. So these are a couple of examples that we've helped people out. This one is actually in the USA. Believe it or not, a guy bought this ladder. It's a special long one that I made for them. And he bought it for his father-in-law as a Christmas present. And apparently they get lots of frogs in these, and they're always going in and handling them back out, and now we're hoping that this is going to cure his problem. He's already said that he gets a lot less rodents than he did before, so the rodents are obviously getting up and down the ladder as well. This was quite an exciting project I did 2 years ago on the M6 when they were working on the smart motorway, putting in some new 10-year stormwater gullies, which is a shame in a way, but you know, at least they were thinking of the amphibians at the time. You'll see in the background there, this was a great crested newt site, and they've got the amphibian fence up to keep them off of the construction work. So you can see that it is an issue here, and it's the big grating in the front where potentially the newts could get in. And what we did with that one was worked with the designer at the time, and this is what it looks like underground. It's a huge surge pit, and what we did was actually got them to put in a separate escape tunnel for the amphibians, and so the ladders are in a dedicated escape tube, and that's the longest of the ladders that went in there. Well, it's a very exciting project to work on, and that's installing it into the escape tube. And then got an inquiry from Korea. So this is the Korean peninsula, and the marker is Baekran Island, which is part of South Korea, although it's only just off of the North Korean coast. I also did, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I'm going to use my cursor. You probably can't, but I'm pointing to a place on the South Korean, North Korean border, a place called Yeoncheon, which is a second place that I visited. So I was invited out to Korea for a week this time last year, just as the COVID thing was breaking out, and got invited out there. And they've got a lot more species than we do. They've got 8 frog species, including the black spotted pond frog, sole pond frog. They've got 4 toads, including this one, the Asiatic toad. 6 salamanders. This is Jeju Salamander. And amongst the 8 frogs, they've also got 2 tree frogs, and this is the Suon tree frog. And all of these are pretty vulnerable. But what they've been doing, South Korea has one harvest of rice. They're very keen on producing their own rice, but they only get one crop because it's a temperate zone, just as the UK is. So they just get one summer rice crop. But there's a lot of paddy fields everywhere, and obviously the ditches around the paddy fields are fantastic amphibian habitats. Sadly, in recent years, they've been replacing them with these concrete channels to aid irrigation and prevent the fields from washing away, I believe. But as you can see, they're a problem for the amphibians. The amphibians have been falling in, and they just have no means of escape, and they perish just as our frogs do in gully pots in this country. So we went out there to fit, or trial at least, some ladders. Now this was, as I say, the back end of January last year, so there's no chance of me seeing any amphibians at that time of year. But we fitted some in a trial, and I understand they've been effective, but there's not been a lot of surveying done. They fitted another 90 since I left, and they do. I'm told there are pictures of at least one picture of a frog using the ladder, but not much survey work has been going on because of the COVID situation, which is sad. This guy in the background, the guy behind, is a guy called Dr. Niall Moores, and he's the chairman of Birds Korea, a conservation society out there, and he was the guy that originally spotted the problem and Googled and found us and invited me out there. And it's been quite a thing. I didn't imagine when we started the ladder project off in 2014 that it would end up with me standing in a rice water rain ditch in South Korea. But there you are. That's the power of the local group. Feel free to get in touch with me anytime, especially about ladders, but also about anything to do with Angus herpetofauna. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Fantastic, Trevor. That's so exciting. I just really like the idea that you could be Googled by the Koreans and next thing you're installing amphibian ladders. So moving from Scotland now, we're going to go back over the water to Emerald Isle, and we're going to hear from Rob Gandola, also, I would say, not an affiliated ARG, but a very good friend and someone we work very closely with at the Herpetological Society of Ireland. So over to you, Rob.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to give you an update because of the dreaded Rona. We didn't do very much last year. We were able to do some stuff, but this is kind of 2019. And I can't say very much about this year either, but it'll all come out in the wash. Just building on what Trevor was talking about there, and just in general, like we've been enabled by you guys for the last 8 years, and that's all Angie Julian's fault. So blame her for me and people like Collinson attending the Herp Workers meeting and causing trouble. But we watch you guys and we take a lot of our ideas from what you guys do and we use it as evidence. And we are hopefully kicking off an Amphibian Ladders project this year. But unfortunately, I can't really say where or when it's going to happen. But there is 28 kilos of Amphibian Ladders currently sitting in my attic that Trevor sent us earlier this year. So it is happening. There's really interesting stuff going on with new development, social housing projects as well that are now going to potentially require gully pots to have amphibian ladders in them, or at least make them more amphibian friendly. So that's a great thing. So things are happening over here. And as obvious, like when guidance notes come out and things and stuff like that, and I know ARG is going to issue a new guidance on drainage, we do try and make sure that the relevant people are paying attention to them as well. So we do actually follow you guys quite closely and then base a lot of our stuff on it. So thanks for being such a welcoming community. Also, ARGs UK, like you take your own local sites and you make them better by adding water, which is what we do. And this is another site we're involved with, which I obviously can't tell you where when is either because we didn't get permission. But this is a Google 3D maps. It's not far from where I live. And this is essentially the back of a depot for a local council. And it's nothing really at the moment except for a dumping site. And what we want to do is turn it into something that looks more like this. It's quite it's a big enough area, but the park it's in is absolutely huge. So it can easily take us turning one small man-made pond into a network of 4 or 5, maybe even 6 ponds. There's frogs on site already. There's potentially newts. It's part of an existing green corridor, and it's within the corridor that leads into a couple of really heavily protected special areas of conservation. So that's all I can say for now. I really wanted to be able to show you guys these projects because I think they're very close to our heart, and we get an awful lot of our ideas from you guys. But it's just the way it is. So no update on projects as of yet. I'm sure you'll hear about it as soon as we have permission to share more widely. So what I'm going to talk about is the research we've been doing over the last 2 years. So we've had 5 master's students from Trinity and UCD. I know Laura O'Neill is currently listening, so I better be nice about her. So we'll start with Danny. Danny was looking at amphibian use in the Irish motorway network, so in stormwater attenuation ponds. So we went out in the summer of 2019 during all times of day and night and went sampling along these stormwater attenuation ponds, and we got permission from the Transport Authority of Ireland to do this, and we had our licenses for Parks and Wildlife. And I can't really say much more because Danny's currently writing it up at the moment, so it's going to be published. But stormwater ponds along motorways do seem to have indirect conservation purposes. So it's looking really cool, and we hope to hopefully publish with the BHS, be submitted in due course. But it was a really interesting project, and I know a lot of people there's been question marks over it. So hopefully we'll have some clarity, at least in an Irish context, going forward. So on to Laura. This is the back of Laura's head, just so that you can't identify her in the future after she murders me. But Laura did her master's project in this lovely island up on the top. Well, it's not an island, it was an island. This is Hout. It's about 11 kilometers outside Dublin City. It was an island historically, and then it became not an island, it became the Hout Peninsula, and it's probably going to become an island again when sea level rises. I think parts of the little connective bit here are only, I don't know, maybe less than 10 meters above sea level. It's really interesting in terms of herps. We have lizards, We have frogs, and Laura's managed to find smooth newts here. There's no records of smooth newts at all. There's a lot of mythology associated with this island. Finn McCool, which you'll hear about in Dragons of the Hills, apparently went on holidays here with his Red Branch Knight. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and this is hopefully a project that we're going to try and get up running later this year. But Laura was looking at landscape connectivity and how the frogs are moving around across the peninsula. And we have signs, we get a lot of leucism actually, we get a lot of leucistic spawn. So it shows that in some of these areas we are getting some sort of inbreeding effect. I would imagine it doesn't seem to have affected them that much. This big grey area up the top here is a giant golf course. It was all one giant estate owned by the Lord of Howth, who was descending from the Normans. This is starting to be broken up and parceled down now. There's very few wetlands actually left, but those that are there, Laura's thesis and another girl called Meg Doyle before, have ensured that these wetlands are all on the map, and hopefully we'll be able to go and ensure they're protected into the future. Laura got some really cool, nice genetic studies, so we can show that there's lots of movement and gene flow still on the island. But I think the big question here is the areas that aren't highlighted is gardens. Ponds and gardens and frogs in people's gardens are definitely a giant question mark at the moment, and that's something that we need to look into. But garden ponds seem to be a big savior of genetic diversity in this area, purely because wild wetlands are on the decline, and we are losing them with climate change and as the heat is managed for other species as well. So really important. Well done, Lonnie. Aisling we were looking up here. Aisling was one of my master's students from UCD last year. So even with Corona, we were able to go out and survey the Dublin mountains where there's a lot of conifer plantations. And Aisling was looking at pesticide residues from when they spray a lot of these conifer plantations. And she was looking at herbicides, pesticide residues, and just where the frogs are actually spawning. Some really cool data coming out of this now, that a lot of these plantations are probably behaving as an ecological trap. A lot of people assume they were, but we think we've got some nice data now to prove that a lot of these drainage ditches aren't, like, they look nice to the frogs, but they're not so great in terms of recruitment into the breeding population over time. Hopefully, Aisling's currently writing this up as well, so we're hoping that we'll have an update on this later in the year too. But another really interesting thing that's got a lot of attention recently, that we've managed to try and get at least a cursory handle on. Another one of my students last year, Pater, was looking at, if anybody's been to Dublin, one of the places they recommend you go is to Phoenix Park. It's one of the largest enclosed parks in the world. I think it's the biggest in a capital city in Europe. So it's a huge site. King James has essentially had a foothold here since the 1600s. He brought in his fallow deer, which are probably what the park's most famous for, as well as Dublin Zoo. There are a couple of wetlands here, and Pater was looking at primarily the distribution of smooth newts in the park, because it's the largest and most central population of smooth newts, like within 2 kilometers of Dublin city centre. So it's quite important that they're there. Found some interesting things on smooth newts interacting with flag iris, yellow flag, which was really cool. So we were hoping to build on it this year, but Corona's kind of made a mess of budgetary funds and permissions for projects. Everybody's kind of scared, and that's had a knock-on effect with insurance and things like that. But really interesting to see where the newts are living within the park as well. There's 3 different management groups here in this park too. So you have Dublin Zoo has this huge area here, is all Dublin Zoo. The vast majority of the park is Operation of Public Works, who kind of have their own remit. And then this other huge estate here on the kind of top left is a different division of the Office of Public Works, who manage a farm lease site there as well. So there's a bit of a politics there that have to be managed when you're trying to get access to site, but everybody so far seems to be very helpful. Third project we had, this was all done because of Corona, it was a desktop study, and we were looking at the distribution of our 3 native species and our 3 widespread native species in Wexford, which is the most southeasterly county down here in Ireland, to see if we can see if there's definitive habitat choices or preferences based, because the Wexford is very, very dry and warm. It'd be very Probably one of our most similar counties to parts of the UK, to Hampshire or Devon or somewhere down there. But again, I think it shows the flaws in a lot of these kind of data centers that just collate data that's sent in. There's issues with quality control and stuff like that, and huge gaps. So again, it shows the importance of these initiatives to get people out and get people surveying and get people submitting records that can actually be verified as well, which seems to be very important. But again, it all seems like it's very science heavy, but we do try to have fun when we're out and about, and we try and, you know, it's important for the students to learn how to do these methodologies, but we do try and have our bit of crack with it, as you probably tell on Twitter. You know, a lot of it's just ongoing comedy when you're out in the rain in the middle of a pandemic, trying to count or trying to get belly photographs of 150 smooth newts at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's all sorts of fun and games. Couple of shorter projects we're doing. Dragons of the Hills obviously included in this, but these are the other ones. These are kind of the projects that bring in our revenue at the moment because of COVID. Like, these can all be conducted in COVID, even before COVID restrictions came in. The one at the back there, hiding, is the one about rehabilitating, is where we're going to build that wildlife pond and where the amphibian ladders were going to be used. But like, we are being noticed now, and we are getting contracts from various councils to go and actually go out and map and do proper herp surveys using herp standard survey methods to actually put these animals into consideration when these councils are all coming up to make new biodiversity action plans for their area and for the county. And these are supposed to then feed back into the National Biodiversity Action Plan, which again is going out to consultation this year. So we're hopefully making little small chips away at the edges to get herps well and truly on the map, irrespective of Article 17 status and things like that. I'll just mention this because Josh went through it already. Our involvement has been extremely limited, except for 2019 when we went up and we did a second year of outreach, which is brilliant, but it's a fantastic project and will hopefully be available and able to drive the 90 minutes up the road and cross the border when things allow, because it is a cracking part of the world and there's so much to learn up there. It's really incredible. So if there's anybody on from Ireland, I know Laura was up with us when we were surveying in the heat wave in 2018. If there's anybody from Ireland that wants to get involved, like, Northern Ireland is an incredible place. Josh doesn't bite. You know, get involved if you can. I'll just mention this, there are toads now in Ireland. There's multiple populations of non-native toads. The jury is still out on any effect that they're going to have. They're unlikely to have any sort of negative effect, given they occur across most of the distribution with all the same species that are on the island of Ireland. So we'll update you about these guys when we're able to. We're not sure what's going to happen. We did one toad patrol last year. It was 3 days before the national lockdown, but they seem to be well entrenched in the Dublin Mountains, and they're known up in the northwest, and there's another site in the southwest as well. So they've somebody for an exercise that started over 150 years ago with people trying to introduce them. It seems that more recent introductions have been more successful, and that's really all I can say about that. And then we have to thank our funders, collaborators, and our enablers, who are you guys, because you put up with us all the time and give us ideas for stuff. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Rob. That's fantastic. It's great to see so much going on despite the lockdown. So next we're going to move north of the border to Ryan. Ryan, are you with us? We've got another video to share. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully it'll work. Hopefully I don't. I've just got. I don't have a fancy presentation, folks. Unfortunately, I've just got a bit of a tile image. So hopefully it'll. So hi, yes. My name's Ryan Boyle. I'm the chair of the Northern Ireland Amphibian and Reptile Group in ARG. This is our first AGM with you. So we are very new. We only started last year. And as I'm sure everyone else experienced, unfortunately, due to COVID, our ability to actually kind of get out has been heavily restricted, unfortunately. But just as I've listed here, the two of the main ones that we have been working with has been Josh and Dragons in the Hills and the Belfast Hills Partnership, So far we've kind of been mostly, especially with Belfast, so partnership is sticking local in and around the kind of outskirts of the Belfast area, and then down in the Ring of Gullion with Josh, who has had to put up with me for the past year and my herbarium scheme ideas, which haven't yet taken fruition. But hopefully this year will be a wee bit more freeing and being able to get out and do things. I feel like we have a lot of work to do leading up from this year onwards. Herps, reptiles, amphibians generally don't have the same exposure up north compared to a lot of our mammal species like bats and a lot of our bird species and all as well. It's an area I think we're lacking in, so hopefully over the next couple of years we can get a bit more traction and actually have a bit more to present these in the coming years, more than just an introduction. But on that note, one of the big things of last year was, as I'm sure everyone heard and put us on the map a wee bit, was Hannah McSorley on TikTok. So Hannah took the TikTok whenever she started rearing tadpoles in her back garden that she found literally in a tire ditch that was drying out, and gained global fame from this. And so yes, that was our brief appearance on television. The whole big thing about that, we got contacted by the One Show, basically. Ali Cassie were filming it for the One Show because they were doing this story. It turns out Hannah had actually been catching a lot of flack online from different people surrounding this whole thing. I know there was a wee bit depending who you spoke to. Some people were all for it, and some people were kind of a bit iffy and against it, which was a bit of a shame because the area where she found the frogs too, it was a lane that ran down the side of her house, low country lane, and they were literally in a tire ditch, like I said, and it was just drying out. And she had, I think it got to the point where she could barely keep up how many she had. They were just everywhere between tadpoles and froglets, in the pool, in the tank, and in our tank. They were everywhere. She had loads of them. We released a handful of the largest ones basically in there on the day, and then like I said, you heard as well, so she just released in the stages from that point onwards, because they were kind of being fed by her and there was a bit more competition in the way she'd had them. It was just basically let them get up a wee bit bigger and then slowly release in the stages, so it's just not gonna overload the surrounding area with a high number of frogs that may not have survived to that stage or to that population number to begin with. But she has spread them out basically the whole way across the local area. Her granddad has a couple of ponds in his land, and she'd released a bunch of them there, which is too far away, and she just kind of gradually released a few every time until she was basically able to take away her for the tadpoles when she had no more left. I think it was quite interesting to sort of see someone who just kind of came out of nowhere and managed to take advantage of a social media platform, which, to be fair, I didn't even hear of until I got the call about this. I didn't have a clue about what TikTok was or nothing. And all of a sudden, it had managed to elevate her to a level of social media fame, but also kind of bring about a different level of recognition for our frog species, especially considering we only have the 3 herp species here in the north, and our frogs aren't exactly the most exciting or colorful when you compare them to a lot of other global species. So it was quite nice to actually see a platform that was promoting our species in a very roundabout way, but in quite a popular and well received light. The use of social media, I feel like in a lot of ways is kind of probably not fully appreciated, but at least for whenever we have groups like ourselves, it can be very well utilized, and that was just kind of a nice wee unexpected event that happened last year. It was a bit of a feel-good moment too, if you know, like this girl basically reared all these frogs and they were being released again instead of drying out of spawn and desiccating before they got a chance to even develop. Given everything that was happening, it's a nice wee bit of a feel-good story concerning our own herp species. But hopefully she won't be in a position where she feels like she has to rescue hundreds and thousands of frogs again this year. I think her garden was basically taken over for the most part. So yeah, that was our kind of foray into TV. Not in a major rush to repeat it. I don't exactly have the charisma or the face for television, I'm sure we'll all agree, so I'm not in a rush to get back to that. The ARG as a whole, like I said, we are brand new. We have just started up, so this is kind of just our wee introduction, say hello, introduce ourselves as well. I have hopefully been pestering a couple of our local organisations like Ulster Wildlife, Belfast Hills Partnership, etc. To a degree, we're hopefully from this year on we'll get a wee bit more interaction with them. We currently have been talking to Jeff at Oxford Island, and they're getting one of them in particular is going to be focusing quite heavily on lizards and newts in the area as well, and the other one on dragonflies. So the two of them are going to be helping out quite a lot surveying for frogs, newts, lizards in the area, and hopefully we can kind of get a wee bit more sort of environmental habitat data concerning their populations and kind of what their distribution is, and maybe even look at a wee bit of kind of food chain and species interactions between them and the dragonflies and any other species in the area. But yeah, that's kind of us for now. Hopefully next year we'll be able to come back and have a few more bits and pieces to show you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much. And so Matt Legg from North Wales. So we're back to mainland, but with Wales. Where are you, Matt? You're there.
I am here. I've appeared.
Hi. Hi.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm Matt Legg, and I'm the chair of North West Wales Amphibian and Reptile Group. Although, despite our name, we cover all of North Wales now, so we also go into like Wrexham kind of way. And yeah, so I'm going to give a quick rundown of what we do. I know obviously most people here, know because we're mostly ARG people, but just in case if there's any like new people, like new volunteers who don't really know what's up, just give a quick rundown and show some pretty pictures. So we do a lot of educational work. Personally, for me, that's like a big passion. So we often go out with like school children, local people, and sort of try and get and appreciate wildlife a lot more. We also do habitat management kind of work. Like you can see we're doing some pond dredging and stuff, as well as a good old like tow patrols, surveys, data collection, all that sort of good stuff. So that's kind of a very quick condensed version of, what we as well as most ARGs often do. So we're based in Bangor in North Wales, and as you can see, that's not a native snake. So that's a king rat snake from Southeast Asia, and that animal belongs to me. And the thing with Bangor, for those who don't know, the university here has a zoology with herpetology course, and that attracts a lot of reptile amphibian enthusiasts, often like keepers, which is really cool. But you often have the issue with people who they want to, they've come here, they want to study herpetology, they also want to get loads of animals, and also because we've got a lot of sites in the area that have native species, they want to go out and see them, but they don't take into consideration things like biosecurity and things like disturbance, etc. So we've kind of having to sort of like how we sort of approach it, because luckily how we kind of approach it is we try and sort of like educate people more and kind of approach it from a keepers kind of mindset, because a lot of the committee for New ARG are keepers, myself included, so we can kind of like see that angle as well. So how we kind of and what the issue was you'd get students who would go and they might touch something that they're not allowed to touch, like legally. You'd also maybe get students who would, like, they see an adder, they pick up the adder, take a selfie for Instagram. That happens, not as much though, but that used to happen a fair bit. And it's things like that, because they don't know. They don't know any better. And beforehand, it was never really addressed by like the Herpsoc or New ARG or anything like that. So when I became chair, because originally I became chair of Herpsoc first, and I wanted to address this, and then I've kind of carried this on when I've switched over to being chair of New ARG. And so what we do at the beginning of the year is we do a kind of like a presentation on species identification, so they can sort of know what's in, the species are in the area, what they are, the legal side, so what legally cannot like disturb and mess with at all without a license. But we also do, and it's my main, like, I guess, section that I prefer to like sort of talk on, is we do like a section on good practice. And not only do we just say like, oh, like keep 3 meters away from adders, we also explain why that's important, how human disturbance has an impact on these species. And because again, like, you know, if it's like the odd person disturbing them, like, I'm not saying it's good, but it's not the end of the world. But what often happens in really good weather is because we have so many reptile keepers and amphibian keepers concentrated in this relatively small town, you might get sites that get like multiple groups of people visiting in like, you know, in literally one day. And so you're having animals that are constantly either being disturbed, whether it's directly through them being picked up and stuff, or like their logs being flipped over, or refugia being flipped over. You also have the issue of, you know, just simply people like disturbing animals that are meant to be out basking. So we sort of so we also kind of added in like things, for example, the make the adder count, how that found that if the trends continue in the UK, adders may be close to extinction across most of the UK, apart from several isolated populations in the next 15-20 years. It kind of like shock people, I guess, to an extent, as well as explaining how, like, you know, how males use up a lot of energy producing sperm earlier in the year. So if you see a high vernacular and you see a bunch of male adders out there, don't disturb them. They're, you know, they're losing a lot of weight to produce sperm. So we kind of approach it that way. We also, with the biosecurity kind of, I guess, like standpoint, we kind of try and flip it around, because a lot of students think from the perspective of, oh, I don't want to bring anything from the outside to my pets at home, but they don't necessarily think my pets might give the animals on the outside something. And again, like when I say about the concentration of animals, like, you know, it would be fair to say, like, in every like 10 houses in Bangor, there's like at least like 3 of them that have exotic reptiles or amphibians in. Like, there's a lot of students here that keep these animals. So we also sort of try and explain how, you know, we don't want to introduce things like, for example, like kitchen stuff into populations that don't have it. And these populations of wild animals we have around here, they can be quite close. So we've got 2 populations that I found in Bangor itself, like in the town itself, of slowworms. Because Bangor's kind of weird. We kind of have like loads of little random semi-wild patches. And so I found 2 isolated populations of slowworms in Bangor. 2 miles up the road, we have Treborth, which again, which is a garden centre, okay, botanical gardens, and they have like palmate newts, slowworms, common toads, common frogs. And then you go down, you know, you go down a few miles across the bridge over Anglesey, then you've got adders and the porous lizards and great crested newts. There's quite a lot of populations around which can be easily visited. So we just try and say, like, we're not saying don't go out and see these animals, but we're saying about how to be as responsible as you can be when doing it. And we also do like organized like little local field trips, so to say, to show people like different methods of, like, you know, how, like, yeah, we did some pond dipping in that photo there to show people newts, because a lot of students there haven't seen a newt before. So we'll do that, but we also will, you know, explain that, you know, you don't want to be doing this as a regular thing. And we've noticed since taking this approach over the last 2 years that the number of posts that we've seen on social media of irresponsible like behavior seem to have decreased. Obviously, you can argue students maybe just aren't taking photos of it or posting them on social media, but still doing it. But personally, like, from the feedback we hear from a lot of students, I would think that we have made quite a significant impact, because a lot of students will say, like, we just didn't realize that this, you know, could be a potential issue. We didn't realize that, you know, disturbing, you know, just picking up an adder or posing it for a photo would be an issue, because they think, oh, it's just me doing it, and then the animal goes away and doesn't realize it's having a constant stream of people. So we've kind of tried sort of approaching that situation in that way, which so far seems to have worked quite well. As for what we've done so far in 2020, obviously in 2020, a lot has happened, but also a lot hasn't happened, depending on like what you're talking about, because obviously we've got the pandemic, but then because of the pandemic, you can't do a lot. So we've done a few other things, but I've just listed a couple of things that we've done. So HIWARG worked with the Bangor University Society of Entomology, as well as the Bangor University Herpetological Society, as well as the Students for Treborth Action Group, in doing a sort of like a survey session. So the organisations, we went up to Treborth and we showed different surveying methods across a range of taxa. So, and then within that collaboration, HerpSoc and HIWARG kind of collaborated to do the Amphibian and Reptile. So it's like a collaboration within a collaboration, which a lot of students really liked. They seemed to really enjoy it, and they found it quite useful. We've obviously been doing our toad patrols, but obviously having to keep within, you know, the government guidelines, which do change quite frequently. So we haven't been able to do like the big ones. We get, you know, like a number of people out. We've kind of been doing it like as individuals and stuff, just sort of like keeping count of what's coming out and sort of helping them go on their way. But also quite a, I guess, interesting thing was a wild alpine newt was found at Treborth. And so, as I mentioned before, Treborth is a botanical gardens. I can't say that word, so I apologize for my horrible pronunciation. But a wild alpine newt was found by a student called Gillian Russell, and I was just chilling at home, and he messaged me being like, "This isn't native, isn't it?" And shows me a photo of his alpine newt, and I'm like, "Nope, bring it here, don't let it go." So that animal's come here. So the photo of it in my hand is the day it arrived, and a little video that's on loop. That was from this morning. I just spotted him out when I turned the lights on. I was like, "Oh, I'll take a little video and, you know, include him here so you can see he's doing well." So because of that, we kind of want to know what's going on. We think we know what's going on. We think this is a one-off kind of situation, because I believe, including this one, this will be the third one that has been found, but that's over a space of like 10 years. So what we think is happening is the gardens, when they get plants imported in, they get aquatic plants imported in, they put them in the pond, and there might be like an egg or larvae caught up in the shipment, you know, survives in the pond and then leaves. Which, if that's the case, you know, I mean, like, obviously, like, yes, there's obviously the risk of things like, you know, them carrying like pathogens and stuff, but at least, hopefully, for now, there wouldn't be a breeding population. But that's something we kind of want to investigate and see what's going on. Obviously, because of the current corona situation, we're not too sure on how soon and viable that will be. But at some point, we plan on doing that. And in the ponds where the alpine newt was found on that site, it's palmate newts, common toads, and common frogs. We also want to do more stone surveys and potentially create some new hive vernacular at some of the sites, which we're talking to like relevant people about possibly doing, because from what I understand, there's not been a lot of work done with slowworms there around Bangor. But that's part of the issue, is because we're a university town, a lot of times the HIWARG committee are university students, for example, how it is now. And when students obviously leave quite regularly, and so there's not really a stable thing, there's not a stable, I guess, like command sort of thing, I guess is the best way to put it. And so often, you know, data gets lost. So data's been collected, gets lost. So I'm kind of hoping that we can try and make it so it's, you know, kept and is more sustainable, and can be passed on, because I know, like, when we've switched over, the data from previous years we've not got access to, so we don't know what the previous year's numbers were before we became the committee. But yeah, so we kind of want to make a more sustainable kind of method of using HIWARG. We also are doing a pond for the Bangor University Healing Garden. That's confirmed. It's just simply a case of when COVID allows it, we you know, when it's allowed, we can do it. But it's all confirmed. That is a project that is happening, which will be good for the you know, for the amphibians at that location, as well as we're going to do some terrestrial hive vernacular as well, just, you know, in case they want to use it. There is some woodland at that site, and there's like fallen logs and stuff. There's already natural hive vernacular there, but we thought, you know, we might as well make another one, and it can be used by other species as well. I want to continue our work with the North Wales Wildlife Trust. So we often do go out on projects with them. We often do, like, you know, school visits with them as well. So we kind of like cover the amphibian and reptile side, where, like, for example, Anna from North Wales Wildlife Trust will be covering more of like the sort of like plant side, you know, sort of like mammals and that sort of stuff. So we want to continue that work. We want to do more surveys and stuff for them. Normally, HIWARG does do quite a few surveys for them, but obviously, because of Corona, that's kind of been interfered with. And also, our big thing is we want to increase our local community outreach because most of our members are students, and because we're in a university town, a lot of people associate us being a university society, which also kind of gets fueled by the fact that we do a lot of collaborations with university societies and university like property and organizations. So we kind of want to try and make it clear, like, hey, we're our own kind of organization, you know, we are our own like people, please come and join us. Obviously living in North Wales, a lot of people speak Welsh, so while I'm not particularly good at it yet, I've been practicing Welsh, and I'm hoping that will kind of help to sort of add in like that interest in the local community. And we've got quite a few plans for doing that, which we had before we became committee, but we became committee last February, and then March, Corona happened. So that's all kind of been postponed. But yeah, so that's kind of what we've been doing, and have planned. And at least from the student body aspect, with regards to the responsible herping, we believe that we've made a significant improvement. It appears to be that way at least, and so hopefully we can sort of like carry on doing our sort of thing. But yeah, no, so sorry if I kind of rushed through that quite quickly.
That's okay, Matt, that's fine. I know we've got a lot to get in, and
yeah, I don't want to hold anyone up too much.
No, bless you. Well, actually, I think it's really important. I think every presentation has drawn out a different thing, and I think you've drawn out this sort of, I wouldn't say exactly conflict, but the difficulty with integrating with captive keepers who perhaps have a different mindset. There's quite a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, and that's
we'll
that's the thing.
Full seminar on that at some point, I think.
Yeah, because it's quite a sort of, I guess, especially recently, it's quite a relevant like topic about the different mindsets of keepers versus like people who work in, I guess, the environmental kind of conservation aspect. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's
okay.
Thank
Thank you so much, Matt. It's great to have a perspective from North Wales.
Okay, jolly good. Right, so I'll just give an overview as to what we've been doing in Lancashire over the past year. We booked a few tasks in for the spring, and those started off really well. I've got a really nice site near Warrington, which is Risley Moss. It's a really good mossland site. It's been well managed by the Rangers for the last 20 years, and we're just giving them whatever support we can to continue their habitat management work, which, as per usual, involves cutting down trees and burning them. So done plenty more of that. We have done a lot of cutting down trees and burning them. Feel a bit bad about that, so it's quite good. We managed to create a high vernacular feature, which you can see on the right hand side. You know, ideally we'd have covered it over some soil and stuff on top, but we just didn't have the means to do that. Also, this bit of the site was where they produced munitions during World War II, so there's lots of horrible, nasty arsenic and stuff, chemicals, when you dig down into that soil, so not advisable to do that anyway. We did a bit of pond management work up near Preston, a little bit at the mercy of the local rangers, really, because we offered our services and they asked us to help with some ponds. And so we turned up and just worked on these ponds, probably of limited amphibian value, I have to say, but they were quite well shaded, and we took quite a few trees out from the southern side and used the brush there to do some dead hedging. We couldn't do any burning. Dead hedging was fine in that case. So back to Risley Moss, we had high hopes for a reptile survey at Risley Moss. And I have to give a nod to Angela. This was inspired by Angela's talk at her workers' meeting last year on adders and some of the work that was going on across Europe for adder conservation. And that got us thinking, myself and a couple of other ARG members who heard the talk, as to what we could do in the Northwest. Very limited on reptile species in the Northwest and distribution. And Risley Moss probably is the best adder site, well, not just for adders. We've got slow worms, common lizard, and a very few grass snakes, although grass snakes may not be there anymore. So it's an excellent adder site. And what we wanted to do was to carry out a really good, thorough, well, it can't be thorough because it's such a big site, but we planned some transects. We're going to get a really good, thorough reptile survey underway. So we started off making up 300 tins. Anybody who's thinking of doing a reptile survey, I can assure you, making up 300 tins is a huge task. Took forever. We were all ready to get those out, and then I'm afraid everything got put on hold. So we've not continued with that, unfortunately, this year, and we were hoping to crack on this spring, which is not really going as planned. But hopefully, at a Hurt Workers meeting at some point in the future, we'll be able to come back and report on how the adder population is doing at Risley Moss, because it's the only site, as I say, where adders are doing really well, although there are other mossland sites around which appear equally suitable, but they're not there. So we'll see how we get on. We did some work at a site near Blackburn. We created some ponds there in 2008. Himalayan balsam, bit of an issue. Volunteers were quite keen to get out and remove the whole Himalayan balsam, so we did 2 tasks on that in the summer. And some creative conservation, which was really nice to be able to do something which wasn't cutting down trees and burning them. We dug a pond over the space of 2 tasks in the autumn. Just managed to do that before the latest coronavirus restrictions started. Did some habitat management as well, we did cut down a few trees and dead hedge those and treated the stumps. So quite a bit of work there. It's nice to go back to a site where we've been working on it for quite some time now. As I say, 2008 we created the ponds, and we're still managing it all this time later. I've said publications, a bit of a grand term, but we'll produce some PDFs, so I didn't really know what else to call them. We've been producing an annual review for the last 10 years. It's quite a nice little memory jogger to remind us all what we've done over the year and from year to year. And we also created a pond creation case study of the ponds at Pleasington, which is Blackburn, from the beginning when they were created, and a look how they've developed to the point 10 years on where the trees have grown from nothing, and some of them now need removing. Latest project, looking forward to 2021, in tune with the times, very much a virtual project. So what's in your pond, not an original title, I'd be the first to agree. There's a few what's in your pond projects out there, as you probably know. We started this one in 2013. It's fallen by the wayside a bit for a combination of factors, but we've got it up and running again this year. So we've got a website. We've done the social media thing, and I'm not the social media person, but some of our young tech-savvy social media gurus are publicising the projects, and hopefully we'll get some more buy-in and interest from people by virtue of the social media side of it. Yeah, the main focus of the project is to encourage people to take more of an interest in ponds, particularly their own garden pond, and to encourage people to survey them and to submit their records. So we're collecting a bit of information about the garden habitats as well, and then we'll pass those records on to the record pool. So look forward to what else I've got planned. If we can, get back to do some habitat management work on the mossland site at Risley, surveys at Risley. Yeah, I've said lead surveyors required. That's always the challenge, really, to get people to coordinate the surveys. Luckily, we've got a few, quite a few people interested. Despite the fact it's hard work, it's difficult going over the site. It's quite there's a lot of walking to do, but actually it's proved a really popular project interest-wise. A lot of people interested in getting involved and helping to lead the surveys. The public engagement, as I've mentioned, is what's in your pond, and our aspiration now with that project is to produce some educational materials, and as part of that, some involvement from people with teaching experience is absolutely key. So if anybody's interested in doing educational stuff and they've got teaching experience, then please do let me know, because we've tried as volunteers to do some educational stuff, and it's just not as good. And I've been in touch with Nigel, so Nigel's been great. He said we can use some of the Hertfordshire pond project, Herefordshire pond project stuff, and also the Cumbria ARG, so we can reuse some of their stuff. So thanks both to those ARGs for that. Final note to end on, I think, is while I'm on, big thank you to Angela for organising the AGM and for all the work you've done over the year, Angela, and also to Chris. I know how much work goes on behind the scenes, so I'm sure other people will have said thank you, but thank you from me as well. That you're doing a great job keeping the show on the road. So thank you. That's it from me.
Thank you, David. Can I also point out that David is our master pond digger on the prison pond project, so he's going to create one in Preston, and hopefully there'll be other opportunities, I'd say, in the Northwest. But certainly, if anybody wants to make ponds in prisons, do speak to me, because there will be a prison near you that would benefit from a pond. So brilliant. Thank you, David. Thank you for
I probably should have said, sorry, we did get some money from the ARG UK 100% fund for the tins for the reptile survey. I should have given you a plug, and I forgot to do it at the time. So yeah, thanks ARG UK 100% fund.
Well, don't worry, that's good. It's good to see it's being used, even if during lockdown it's been delayed. So finally, but not least at all, is BBC ARG. Amber is there. I can see her. Amber,
hello.
We're all waiting for you to go finale. So off you go.
Well, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'll try and keep this brief, because I know I'm feeling tired. So I run the Birmingham and Black Country ARG, and pretty self-explanatory name of where we're based. So I'm just going to give a bit of an overview of what we've been up to and what we're doing. So after last year, we didn't really get out to do much surveying or our usual habitat monitoring, but we did start on some other projects that we're continuing on into this year and years ahead. So here's just a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about. So many of you that are involved in ARGs will know that ARGweb was set up by ARG and the Hampshire and Isle of Wight ARG, and that's something that we got set up on last year, but we hadn't progressed very far with it, and so far we've only just about got all of our members on there. And so something that we're really looking at this year is using it and setting it up as a monitoring and survey tool, like we've seen demonstrated by some of the earlier talks this evening. So that's something that we're slowly chipping away at, and hoping that we can bring land managers and rangers and our biological recording group into as well. So we're also at the moment in the middle of setting up Spawn Watch again. So Spawn Watch is a national programme that exists anyway, but we have been working with our local record centre, Eco Record, and with our local branch of the Wildlife Trust to set up a project specifically for Birmingham and the Black Country. There are specific engagement issues in this area with biodiversity that need some special attention. So having all three organisations talk about this and promote people to submit sightings of spawn, of toads, of frogs really helps. And what you can see on the screen is a couple of maps produced from our 2018 survey. So it's a really good public engagement tool that we're using, and happily today we've had our first frog spawn in ponds reported. So really effective citizen science that we're happy to be running for our third year in a row with this collaboration now. Something else we're also working on quite a lot is outreach. So there's not many people in the area that probably know about our group, and we've only got a small following online. And so something we've been trying to work quite hard to do is improve the quality of information that we're putting out, and ensuring that the information that we do provide to the public is of sound science and good practice, and it helps people engage in conservation through biological recording, or even just learning about the species that we have in the area. So something that we're also working on is engaging with local news and press media. So we're in the middle of a feature for the group and for Spawn Watch at the moment with one of our local newspapers. And we're also getting back in the rhythm of producing educational newsletters for our members as well, which you can see the front cover of here. So something that I think is a project quite close to our hearts here on the committee for Birmingham is updating our species atlas. So several members of the group were involved in the production of this provisional atlas that was released in 2005. But since then, nothing's really happened with this atlas, and there's certainly no formal updated information about the species in our area and about the habitats and nature sites and the general status of herps in the region. And so something that we're beginning to turn some cogs on and really quite invested in setting up and completing, is a renewed version of this that actually gives up-to-date assessments of what species we've got where, particularly with attention focused on non-natives and on how our grass snakes and our adders are doing, because we're particularly concerned about habitat fragmentation and the effect that might be having on these species. So we've got no end date on when this will happen yet, as we've got a couple of other bigger projects that are taking priority at the moment. But this is something that we're really excited to be working with our local record centre and with local ecologists on, and hopefully we'll have that soon. But we'll see how we go with the other stuff. Our main project at the moment is a biodiversity landscape corridor. So if you're unfamiliar with the Black Country and Birmingham as an area, it's quite developed. There's quite a lot of human activity in the area, and so as a result, a lot of our nature provision is quite fragmented. But what we do have is two quite regionally important habitats. We've got a triple SI based off of Baggeridge Country Park, which is connected to a couple of smaller nature reserves up on the left corner by Cotwall End. And we also have the Fens Pool Special Area of Conservation, which is down near Pensnet on the map. So these two areas are regionally important for great crested newts, for frogs and toads, and we know that grass snakes use both sites and areas in between. And so we're really lucky to be able to work with two of our local councils, Dudley Metropolitan, South District Council, also working with the Canal and River Trust and Natural England, who are helping fund some work. And so what we're looking at doing is producing a report on our recommendations to put in a habitat landscape corridor. So creating a network of ponds, high binocular, making road crossings more usable for amphibians, and essentially setting up a wildlife corridor between these two sites, with the aim being to connect the habitat, make the populations at each site more resilient, and hopefully make sure that there's reptiles and amphibians in the area and between the area for many years to come. So we were quite keen to get out and start working on this straight away. We're obviously quite invested in the area, and the history of the group in this area goes back 3 decades, so there's a lot of local interest. So we went out and did our first site visit the day before Valentine's, and you can see some photos of what we got up to on screen. There's some really lovely ponds that exist on the network, and we were mainly scoping for areas for potential ponds, looking at where there's existing surface water after all the rain. And there's also some really good sites that could potentially be used for high binocular and for basking spots, which obviously is of interest when we're trying to think about our grass snakes. So there's lots of potential in this area, and I think as the project develops and we have a better idea of what we've got, what's there, what we can do with any potential funding, and what we can do practically, I think this is going to be a really good opportunity to improve the conservation for local herps. So something else that was on the back burner because of COVID, but is a nice note to end on, is that we are planning to redo our West Midlands Regional ARG conference. So we were planning to do this last April in person, but obviously due to COVID that didn't happen. And so we're now planning to run it as a virtual event. We did have a list of almost 10 speakers in a couple of workshops, and at the moment we've got talks replanned from the Birmingham Black Country Wildlife Trust, Natural England, Angie from ARG UK, we've got Gloucestershire ARG, our ARG, and Butterfly Conservation have all said that they'll talk again. So more details will come soon, but we're planning to do that maybe April, May kind of time, and we'll share links and more information when we have it, and hopefully get an updated programme to you soon. But I'd urge everyone that's interested in public engagement in conservation and the pressures that face our reptiles and amphibians to check out this event when we do have it up and running, because I think it'll be a really good opportunity to share knowledge and ideas about how to tackle these issues. So we're quite active on social media, as I've said, so if anyone wants to catch us online or get in touch about any of our projects, or even if they want some tips on spawn watch projects, just get in touch at the links below. But otherwise, thanks for listening.
Wow, thank you, Amber. That's wonderful. It's great. It's really great. I think it's great that each ARG has a different sort of parameters. So you've got a large urban sprawl in Birmingham, you've got more rural ones, and everybody's sort of doing something appropriate to their area. So I think it's great to have that sort of bite-sized view of what's going on. So that's just 10 of our groups. We have 37 altogether. We could be here all day and all night. So it's fantastic to hear from everybody. Please do look out for the West Midlands Regional Conference, which will be another highlight. We're also planning to run some more seminars at some point. We're just thinking of themes and ideas. So if anybody's got any ideas or themes, please do send them my way. All inputs are welcome. Now I'm going to hand back over to Chris now. Where did we get to with the agenda, Chris? On to AOB.
I think we've run out of time for the meeting really tonight. Yes. So Francis and John from the University of West of Scotland asked us if we can make an appeal for volunteers to help us taking samples for a couple of their projects, which we've got a slide from Francis, which we'll put on our social media on Twitter and on Facebook. So if you've got a pond with breeding frogs, preferably close to the coast, or if you live in Scotland or Devon, there's a couple of projects there that they would like volunteers to help take samples. If you contact Frances, her email address is on the slide, and she'll put you in touch with it. And John's already getting the sample equipment and sampling paraphernalia ready, so he's just waiting for people to volunteer. So particularly in Scotland and Devon for one of the projects, and somewhere near the coast for the other one. The other thing about us, I'd like to say, is thank you for everyone for turning up, and it's been very good that it's not been so dominated by English talks tonight. It's, you know, sometimes it's really difficult and we struggle to get presentations from the other countries, and to have people from Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland, it was as many as there were from England. That was really good. And it goes back a bit to what we used to do in the early days when ARG UK was first set up. Jan, the first chair, used to do in the days of Deadwood, a paper summary of what all the ARG groups were doing. You know, it was about 30 or 40 pages worth. And then David, when he was chair, he did set about organising a newsletter, which what the ARGs were doing, and sent that out. And now we've moved on to online, and hopefully in future the presentations and things, you wouldn't believe it, but when we had a run through, everything worked perfectly, but on the night things always seem to go wrong. So getting this sort of description of what the different ARG groups are doing is really good, and I think in future we'll probably do ARG UK AGMs like this again, rather than try and fit them in a short period of time at the Hurt Workers meeting. So thank you everyone for watching, and don't forget, if you haven't filled in the Survey Monkey thing, do that, and check our social media, and then we'll put up the slide from Francis about their West of Scotland University projects. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for sitting through. It's been a marathon, but it's been a marathon because we are so amazing and we're doing so much fantastic work. So, and it would be a shame not to hear it all. So it's brilliant. Everybody stay well, stay safe. COVID is still out there. Try and do what you can, but within the regulations. And there'll be lots of good things to look forward to, lots more online stuff, and wish you all good night, and see you all soon. Take care then. Bye.